been a few weeks since it came out, but I do want to make a little post about the new metabolism study that just came out. So basically, the study challenged what we thought we knew about metabolism, which is we thought that it peaked in the teens and 20s and then declined throughout adulthood, throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s, and just kept getting slower and slower as we age. And interestingly, what this study suggests instead, and it was a very well-run study, is that metabolism, metabolic rate, how much energy we expend, how many calories we burn, etc., it actually stays very stable throughout adulthood. So between age 20 and 60, it stays about the same. And then even after 60, it only declines by about 0.7% a year, which isn't a ton. It's, you're not falling off a metabolic cliff at age 60. And the good news is it's optimistic. It's nice to know that your metabolism doesn't slow down that much throughout your adult life. It is nice to know that it's not true that after your 30s it's just like super hard to lose weight. But I think the negative of that study coming out was the way it was interpreted by a lot of people, because the way I heard about the study was on social media and a lot of trainers posting with kind of an I gotcha tone of, see, it wasn't your metabolism, and basically accusing people of like being lazy and being slow and then blaming it on their metabolism, that kind of thing. So that didn't really sit right with me, because there is something in the study that is super important that I don't think has been highlighted very much, which is the fact that when they were measuring and observing all these different people's metabolic rates, they did something called adjusting. So they adjusted for fat-free mass. So basically that means how much muscle does someone have? And that includes muscle, water, bone, etc. But the idea is what percentage of your body is not fat. And then they adjusted for that metric. So really what they did was they took people and kind of divided them up, each person individually, into what is your metabolic output, based on your fat-free mass. And then they were able to say, well, everybody's is pretty much the same. Your metabolic rate is the same throughout adulthood. Men and women's metabolisms are very similar, which is something else the study brought up that surprised a lot of people. But the problem is not everybody has the same amount of fat-free mass. And I think that's something that's been crucially overlooked, is what is our takeaway from the study? What do we do differently with the new information? And I think for me, that was the most, important point, was that the amount of muscle you have hugely determines how many calories you burn a day. And even though a lot of people will say, and it's true, having more muscle doesn't turn you into a calorie burning machine where you can just eat whatever you want. But having more muscle does increase your resting metabolic rate, which means you burn more calories at rest, just doing nothing. But it also means that you can burn more calories when you're exercising, because you have more power, you have, you're working with more raw materials. So not making a big, not emphasizing the importance of muscle mass, I think, is a practical takeaway that has been missed quite a bit in discussions of this new study. So what are the takeaways for if you feel like your metabolism has slowed down? What can you do to feel like you have more control over how many calories you burn, having a little more latitude with your eating, etc.? And the number one thing that you could do is live in such a way that you build more muscle. Because for women especially, it is harder to build and maintain lean muscle as you get older. Hormones play a huge role in how easy it is to build and maintain lean muscle mass. So you're really going to have to fight that trend. It's not your metabolism, it's that you're losing muscle as you age, and then your metabolism slows down as a result of that during your 30s, 40s, and 50s. So to combat that, resistance training, big time. Really focus on lifting even heavier weights than you thought you could. Really build your confidence in the gym, And then also do more fast, explosive training, both with weights and with your body weight. So instead of, running for 3 or 5 miles, which is great, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but you should also include some more explosive type training, like sprinting or sprinting on a bike instead of, doing like long cardio workouts. So both lifting weights and doing more explosive speed training are going to be good for building muscle. One of the other things I want you to do if you feel like your metabolism has slowed down is I want you to eat more protein. And in some cases, I want you to eat more carbs too, but let's really focus on protein. So protein comes from many different sources. We've got lean meats, we've got vegetable sources like lentils, or if you're a vegetarian, you've got dairy, eggs, etc. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get protein, but the emphasis is you need to eat a lot of it. So probably, what I do with a lot of clients is about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. So that means if you weigh 150 pounds, I want to see you eating somewhere around 150 grams of protein a day. And, start lower than that, but aim up, like try to start hitting that goal. And then finally, if you feel like your metabolism has slowed down, I also want you to take a look at lifestyle things that and this is, I think, what a lot of those kind of snarky trainers were getting at, which is have certain aspects of your lifestyle slowed down. Maybe it's not your metabolism, but for a lot of people, when they get promotions as their career grows, it becomes more sedentary. You go from being more physically active earlier in your career to probably sitting behind a computer more or sitting on the phone more. And that is a natural part of career progression for a lot of people. Same thing with kids. When your kids are little, you run after them a lot. As they get older, you may be running them around a lot, but probably in a car instead of chasing them around the yard. So do look for areas where your lifestyle has slowed down. So those are the 3 main takeaways I would look at is A, to build muscle, resistance train and do more explosive speed training, power training. 2, eat more protein. And if you are extremely active, do consider eating more carbs. Don't necessarily follow a low carb diet because we want to encourage building muscle mass, which muscle needs carbohydrates really to build effectively. And then number 3, take a look at where your lifestyle may have slowed down in the meantime that you weren't aware of. So doing things like wearing a step tracker or tracking your workouts, planning your workouts, aiming for a certain number of minutes of active minutes per week. Those are all things that can help correct any of those deficits if your lifestyle has slowed down a little. But I want you to really focus on the positivity of the study, which is there's a huge amount of optimism to it. Your metabolism does not start slowing down the minute you're in your 20s. A lot of it has to do with body composition. Having more muscle, having less fat, and having a lot of power in your body that you can move quickly and be strong. So that's it for today. That is my thought on the metabolism study. I've really been ruminating on it, which is why I didn't post anything right when it came out. But I hope this is helpful, and please feel free to email me if you have any questions.